All right, I'm going to show you how to create an abandoned checkout rate in Looker Studio. This is not a standard metric that you have, but it can come in handy. So the way to begin, this is what ends up happening. You've got an abandoned checkout rate card here. It's at 52%. I also charted it and plotted it over time so we can see if there's any fluctuations by date. Everything in the orange bar is the checkout rate. I also threw the transaction and begin checkout sessions count there too so we can see that trended as well. So that's what we're going to create. So I'm just going to jump to a new page. And the way to start is I'm going to add a new chart and I'm going to add a scorecard. And I've got my GA4 property selected. Okay, so I'm going to change this from views, which came in by default, and I'm going to call this transactions. Okay, so there's transactions. So that's going to give me the number of transactions during this time frame. And then I'm going to copy and paste that. And then now I'm going to add sessions, which kind of seems weird, but what I want to do here is isolate the number of begin checkouts or only one per session, because someone can go and click begin checkout multiple times in a session. I only want the one time that begin checkout had in a session. So I'm using sessions as my metric. But what I need to do then is add a filter on this to isolate it down just to the begin checkout events. So what I can do here is come to add filters, create a filter, and I'm going to call this begin checkout sessions. Okay, and then I'm going to include my event name because the begin checkout is an event. So I'm going to say event name equals begin checkout. Okay, so I save that. Now notice my number just dropped, right? So now this is only the sessions that had a begin checkout event. So I have 1,800 of those. Okay, great. Now I got these two metrics separate. Well, let's actually do one more thing here. It's called sessions still. Let's call these begin checkouts. Okay, now that's labeled nicely. Now I've got two different data sources here, but I want to blend them. Okay, so they're both coming from GA4, but if I highlight both of them, right click and go to blend data, this now creates a blended data source. So let's look and see what happened here. So right now, it automatically added a formula for us. So right here, it created a new card and let's look and see what it did. So it's transactions divided by begin checkouts. Okay, that looks pretty good, except this is actually showing us the number of transactions per the sessions with begin checkout. So we want the inverse of this because we want to know how many sessions where they dropped out and didn't actually transact. So I'm going to go do 1 minus and then apply. And now we should get to our 51. There we go, 51.89%. It's just the inverse of what it created. It may change. Pay attention to this too. It also may set your begin checkouts divided by transactions. So just pay attention to that when it creates this, and just make sure that you get 1 minus the total of sums transaction divided by the sum of begin checkouts. Then, if I want to plot this over time, I can come back into my blended data. And what I need to do, let me explain here. Actually, sorry. So what this did was we've got a blend data. This is our first table. We've got just transactions here. This was the begin checkouts with the begin checkout filter on there. So that Looker Studio did that automatically when we did the blend data option. So now if I come back in here and go to date, I want a date on here so I can blend, or I can chart it over time. And then instead of just having this cross join, I want full outer join in this case, which basically just connects the two different data sets together based on the date that those happened. So you can see all the, it'll match up on the date. So it'll give you the accurate number of transactions and begin checkout events per day. So if I save that, I just like to call these things just for good measure. Get these named. All right, checkouts, and then we're going to call this GA4 checkout abandon rate. So now let's create the chart to show the timeline. So if I'm going to copy and paste this just to have the same abandoned cart rate, and now if I come to chart types, I want a chart type that has a bar, a combo chart. And what's going to happen is my dimensions are going to be begin checkout. I want my dimension to be date. because that's going to give my timeline there. Yep, there we go. So now we've got dates that are listed out. And then I want my metrics. I've got my checkout abandon rate. I want my begin checkouts, and I want my transactions as the things we're gonna chart. And then if I come down here, it's sorted by begin checkouts. I want to sort by date, and I want it to be ascending. So now we've got it going from May 12th through June 7th. So that's great. But notice the abandon rate is super low there. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to change where that's going to be on the right axis. And that should bump that up. So now we've got our abandoned checkout rate going here at 50% there. And then we can see our begin checkouts and our purchases over time as well. So that's how you create a begin or a checkout abandonment rate chart in Looker Studio. Hope that's helpful. Let me know if you have any questions.